Soldiers are in Lashkar.
No, sir, he doesn't know.
From the moment that troops arrived, Helmand's Afghan governor warned that his authority was being undermined by lawless gunmen in the north. He urged the army to deal with them.
His argument was very much on the case saying, I need you to make sure that the flag of Afghanistan flies over all of the district centres.
Yeah. Did you resist that to begin with or not?
We did. We made it very clear that we were going to be extremely limited in our capability to do other operations.
The generals in London judged that deploying north was unsustainable. But the Helmand governor persevered and was supported by the British Embassy in Kabul and the Secret Intelligence Service. By late May, the generals relented. The order was given to defend positions up to 70 miles from the reconstruction area. By late June, the army was thinly spread across 3 new flashpoints and about to stretch to yet a 4th, the town of Sangin.
There were no angels in Sangin. There were 2 warring drug cartels, effectively, in Sangin. And here we were about to deploy British troops in between those 2 drugs cartels. I did everything I possibly could to engage anyone who had decision-making authority to say, this is madness, this cannot be happening.
But it was. The arrival of the troops stirred up a hornet's nest.
I was furious watching that type of decision-making that ended up uprooting the entire plan that we'd devised.
The summer of 2006 saw the British Army engaged in some of its fiercest fighting in half a century.
Watch it shake! Watch it shake! Pass up the canard!
How does this compare to Iraq?
Oh, it's a lot worse. It's a lot better. No, we didn't see any action in Iraq. About here, it's more or less every day can guarantee small arms fire incoming, like.
Pinned down in a series of Alamos across the north of Helmand, British soldiers became magnets for attacks from the Taliban, drug gangs, and locals just angry at the presence of foreigners.
A lot of the people we were killing were effectively the farmers who'd had AK-47s put in their hands by the Taliban leadership.
Part-time Talibs, really?
Part-time Talibs. Part-time Talibs are not very well-trained ones, and we killed huge numbers of them. And I don't think that was to our liking at all. And we were conscious that really for every one we killed, we were probably actually fueling the insurgency.
The general responsible for overseeing day-to-day operations in Helmand was Sir Peter Ward, now head of the British Army.
The mission changed dramatically.
No, I don't think the mission did change, actually.
Really?
No. It changed in what? Do you mean the aim changed?
Well,
or the mode of delivery changed?
Well, it changed in the sense that the original mission was a sort of hearts and minds, we'll help bring governance mission to this limited area in the centre of Helmand. And within a matter of weeks, 16 air assault were fighting for their lives in a series of Alamos, and no governance, none at all, taking place.
Had we not gone north, what would have happened in your estimation?
That's not for me to say. What you were in charge of the operational decision.
Yeah.
So what's your estimation?
I think Afghan governance in Helmand would have collapsed. I think you'd have seen the Taliban breaking out, and you'd have had your Alamos in different parts of Helmand.
The original mission was to win hearts and minds. You would accept, I guess, that if only because we needed to protect our soldiers, that quite a lot of Afghan hearts were lost in the process.
Undoubtedly. Yeah, undoubtedly. I accept that.
This guy's IDing these here and saying the Taliban. Where's the room name? Yeah? 2 men? Yeah, there. Taliban, yeah?
How much of your original plan did you manage to implement?
Not really very much.
I think after the first 18 months of hard fighting, understanding the challenges that the Taliban posed, our expectations changed from Belgium in 2 years to Bangladesh in 30. The scale of the challenges really became apparent.
Jesus! Stay still! Stay fucking still! Fuck with Bus! Bus, we gotta get him out now!
In the first 5 years of the Afghan conflict, 2 British soldiers had been killed in action. In 2006 alone, that rose to 39. A slow drumbeat of death began to roll. Ministers said the sacrifice was about keeping the streets of Britain safe by denying al-Qaeda a safe haven in Afghanistan. And yet a mission that had been intended to help stabilize Afghanistan seemed to have made it less stable.
There's no doubt that the Taliban are growing in confidence and they're focusing their attention nowadays on Kabul.
Well, another bomb blast on the streets of Kabul. This is something that's becoming increasingly familiar.
By the start of 2007, violence had spread across much of the country, with a 7-fold increase in suicide bombings. Many were being planned and executed from Pakistan. The then US commander was General Karl Eikenberry. He had regular meetings with the Afghan president, Hamid Karzai.
Many of my conversations with him were conversations of maybe 60 minutes, and 58 minutes would be spent on Pakistan. And my view was, initially, he seems to be obsessing on this subject. But I have to tell you, as I look back on it, no, he was absolutely correct. It was a very serious problem.
I think around that time, Pakistan came to the conclusion maybe the coalition was going to be short of breath. I believe very strongly that if the coalition was not going to prevail in Afghanistan, then Pakistan wanted to make sure that they had some seat at the table.
A seat for Pakistan by using the Taliban to gain influence inside Afghanistan. The CIA concluded that America's closest ally in the region could no longer be trusted. Pakistan's intelligence service, the ISI, was playing a double game.
You want to know where the headquarters of the Afghan Taliban is? Find the headquarters of the ISI. They're in the same building. We've even had reports of Pakistani officers being killed inside Afghanistan fighting with the Afghan Taliban as expert advisors to them.
The Afghans also insist that Pakistan intelligence was protecting the Taliban leader, Mullah Omar.
They know where he is?
Of course, he is in their safe house.
Did they ever tell you where he was when you were?
I told them where he was and they got panicked. Not once, not twice, time and again.
Why did you not hand over Mullah Omar to the Americans?
He never came to Pakistan. Now that is the normal belief.
He came to Pakistan at the end of 2002.
No, I don't think so, ever.
You don't think he's even there today?
No, never. I don't think he'll be mad if he's in Pakistan.
Where do you think he is?
He will be in his own area because he dominates the area.
What, in Afghanistan?
Yes.
You think Mullah Omar's in Afghanistan?
Yes, indeed. Absolutely.
You must be the only person who does.
Well, only person, no. The people who don't believe that is probably West and United States. I don't think anyone else believes that he's in Pakistan.
By the end of 2008, many of the Bush administration's major goals for Afghanistan were in reverse. The light military footprint was heavier, 53,000 NATO troops, mostly American, and rising. Washington, once determined to avoid nation building, now spending many billions. And Pakistan, once their friend, was betraying them. America was getting sucked in deeper and deeper, and there seemed no way out. All eyes turned to a new president for fresh thinking.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. We meet at one of those defining moments. A moment when our nation is at war.
We left him a very poor hand of cards with very few choices. When Mr. Obama came aboard, he was immediately faced with, be careful, don't lose Afghanistan.
The president asked me to fly with him to California in early March 2009. And after reading my report, we then spent the better part of a couple of hours going through it.
President Obama had asked Bruce Riddell to write a no-holds-barred report on the Afghan crisis, and Riddell did not pull his punches.
Defeat is what we were staring in the eye 2 years ago. Catastrophic defeat in Afghanistan, with the Taliban taking over the southern half of the country and maybe being able to march on Kabul at some point in the future, and the NATO alliance fragmenting and falling apart.
The president ordered his staff to go back to basics. What exactly were America's goals and how best to achieve them? A grueling policy review ensued. It would take 8 long months. In settings somewhat humbler than Air Force One, an equally bleak picture had been briefed to the British Prime Minister.
I was on my way home for the weekend, and I'd got to Cardiff station and just got on the train that goes up the valley, and it was packed out. And suddenly the Prime Minister was on the phone, and you can't not take a call from the Prime Minister.
Gordon Brown wanted Kim Howell's assessment of the Afghan government, led by Hamid Karzai. 7 years earlier, Karzai had been seen as Afghanistan's savior.
I told him that we would find it increasingly difficult trying to argue the case for continued death and the maiming of our young people in Afghanistan when they were fighting to prop up a regime that was basically up to its eyeballs in corruption.
These mansions had sprung up in a part of Kabul exclusively reserved for Afghanistan's military and political elite. Ordinary Afghans could only wonder how such luxuries could be afforded on a government wage. In early 2009, one of the US senators overseeing America's multi-billion-dollar investment in Afghanistan confronted Karzai in the presidential palace.
The corruption in the country is rampant. Very frustrating to go there year in and year out and say, when is somebody going to jail in Afghanistan for ripping off the Afghan people? When is somebody connected to the highest narcotics dealer ever going to go to jail in this country?
You said this to the President
Absolutely,
Karzai.
Just like I'm saying it to you.
At the dinner table?
Yes.
State dinner table?
Yes. How much longer are we going? The Afghan people are going to have to wait, and the world going to have to wait. Do you see things change here?
This is Afghan MP Dr. Bashar Dost, famous for giving most of his